Welcome to Urban Greens, where we explore the hidden treasures of nature thriving in our cities. In today's episode, we are diving into a fascinating journey of discovering and foraging mulberries right in the heart of the urban landscape. Have you ever noticed the abundance of nature tucked away amidst the hustle and bustle of city life? Well, you are about to see how one ordinary morning turned into an extraordinary adventure, reconnecting with nature in ways you never imagined. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to Urban Greens, and press the bell icon so you never miss our latest content. Share this story with your friends to inspire them to explore their urban green spaces too. We would love to hear from you, so drop a comment below and let us know what you think and how we can make our channel even better.
The early morning sun had just begun to peek over the rooftops of the city when I first stumbled upon the mulberry tree. It was an unassuming find, tucked away in a quiet corner of an otherwise bustling urban landscape. I had been wandering through a neighborhood park, headphones on, lost in thought, when a tiny black berry caught my eye as it dangled precariously from a low-hanging branch. It was one of those moments where you're struck by the beauty of the ordinary, a small, dark fruit quietly existing amidst the concrete and chaos of the city. At first, I wasn't entirely sure what it was. Was it edible, poisonous? Curiosity, and perhaps a touch of hunger, drove me to investigate further. Pulling out my phone, I snapped a quick photo and consulted my favorite foraging app. Within seconds, the app confirmed it, Morris, commonly known as the mulberry tree. My heart quickened. I had stumbled upon a treasure, not of gold or jewels, but of nature's bounty hiding in plain sight. I had read about urban foraging before, about how cities are filled with edible plants if you know where to look. But this was my first real discovery. The mulberry tree was laden with fruit, its branches bending slightly under the weight of the tiny, juicy gems. There were black ones, ripe and ready to eat, as well as red and white ones in various stages of ripening. It felt like a secret garden in the middle of the urban sprawl. I plucked a ripe mulberry and held it up to the sunlight. Its skin gleamed, dark and glossy, like a tiny cluster of onyx beads. Tentatively, I popped it into my mouth. The taste was extraordinary, a burst of sweetness with a subtle tartness, a flavor that felt both familiar and entirely new. It was as if the berry carried the essence of summer within it. I couldn't resist gathering more. Pulling out a reusable bag from my backpack, a habit I'd picked up since adopting a more sustainable lifestyle, I carefully began harvesting the berries, mindful not to strip the tree bare. Foraging, after all, comes with a responsibility to leave enough for wildlife and for the tree to regenerate. As I picked, memories of childhood summers spent in my grandmother's garden flooded back. She had a mulberry tree too, and we'd spend hours climbing its sturdy branches, hands stained purple from the berries. Back then, the tree had seemed like a portal to another world, one where time slowed down and simple pleasures reigned supreme. I hadn't thought about those summers in years, but standing there beneath the urban mulberry tree, it all came rushing back. The act of foraging felt meditative, almost primal. It connected me to a rhythm of life that's easy to overlook in the city. Here, amidst the hum of traffic and the chatter of pedestrians, I was partaking in an ancient tradition. For centuries, humans have gathered food from the wild, understanding the land and respecting its offerings. Yet, in modern times, we've grown so disconnected from these roots. As the morning wore on, I noticed I wasn't alone. A young couple walked by, their toddler pointing excitedly at the tree. An elderly man with a cane stopped to watch me for a moment, then nodded approvingly before continuing on his way. It struck me that this tree, so unassuming and easy to miss, was quietly weaving itself into the lives of those around it. Later that day, back in my tiny apartment kitchen, I laid out my mulberry haul. The berries glistened in the afternoon light, their deep hues almost too beautiful to disturb. But disturb them I did. I rinsed them gently, marveling at how their juice tinted the water a rich, ruby red. Then came the fun part, deciding what to make. Mulberries are incredibly versatile. You can eat them fresh, of course, but they also lend themselves beautifully to jams, pies, smoothies, and even savory dishes. I decided to start simple, whipping up a batch of mulberry pancakes. As the batter sizzled in the pan, the sweet aroma filled the air, making my mouth water. Sitting down to breakfast for dinner, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of satisfaction. These weren't just any pancakes. They were a product of discovery, of connection, of a morning spent in quiet communion with nature, and they were delicious. In the days that followed, I became a bit of a mulberry evangelist. I shared my find with friends, encouraging them to join me in exploring the city's hidden edible treasures. Together, we began to notice things we'd never paid attention to before: dandelions sprouting in sidewalk cracks, wild mint along riverbanks, cherry plums scattered in parking lots. The city, it turned out, was teeming with food if you knew where to look. Foraging mulberries became more than just a hobby. It became a gateway to a deeper appreciation for the world around me. It taught me to slow down, to observe, to appreciate the small wonders that often go unnoticed. It reminded me of the importance of sustainability, of taking only what you need and leaving enough for others. One day, I decided to learn more about the history of mulberries. I discovered that these trees have a fascinating backstory. Originally native to Asia, they were brought to Europe and later to the Americas as part of the silk trade. Mulberry leaves are the primary food source for silkworms, and their cultivation was once a thriving industry. Over time, the trees naturalized in many regions, becoming a beloved but often overlooked part of the landscape. This history added another layer to my appreciation of the mulberry tree. It wasn't just a source of delicious fruit. It was a living testament to the interconnectedness of cultures, economies, and ecosystems. Each berry I picked felt like a tiny piece of that story. As spring turned to summer, I kept returning to the mulberry tree. It became a kind of sanctuary, a place where I could escape the noise and busyness of life. I watched as the berries ripened and fell, providing food not just for me but for birds, squirrels, and other creatures. The tree was a hub of activity, a reminder that even in the heart of the city, nature thrives. I began to notice other mulberry trees scattered throughout the city, each one with its own unique character. Some were tall and sprawling, their branches forming natural canopies. Others were smaller, almost shrub-like, tucked away in alleyways or community gardens. Each discovery felt like a secret waiting to be shared. One afternoon, I decided to host a mulberry-themed picnic in the park. I invited friends and neighbors, asking everyone to bring a dish featuring mulberries. The result was a feast that showcased the berries' versatility: mulberry tarts, salads with mulberry vinaigrette, mulberry-infused cocktails, and even a mulberry barbecue sauce that was surprisingly delicious. We sat on blankets under the shade of a large oak tree, sharing food and stories, our laughter mingling with the sounds of the city. That day, I realized that foraging isn't just about the food, it's about community. It's about coming together to celebrate the abundance around us, to reconnect with the land and with each other. The simple act of finding and sharing mulberries had brought us closer, turning strangers into friends and friends into family. Now, whenever I see a mulberry tree, I feel a spark of joy. It's a reminder of all the lessons I've learned, to look closely, to appreciate what's often overlooked, and to share the fruits of my labor. Foraging mulberries in the city has changed the way I see the world. It's shown me that even in the most unexpected places, there's beauty, nourishment, and connection waiting to be found. And so, the next time you're walking through your city, take a moment to look around. You might just find a mulberry tree of your own, its branches heavy with fruit, inviting you to partake in its quiet magic. And when you do, don't forget to share the joy because, as I've learned, The sweetest things in life are even sweeter when shared.